んだは初めて俺に伝えている。
絶望の匂いだ。
面白いこと見せようか。ほら、こんなに人が多すぎて。
お父さん。
あかん。
ドナルド君はまだ死ぬ時じゃないでしょ。
アメリカ万歳。ファイト。
絶対負けないよ。
ランドスライドまで。
ゼロ。だってまだサンキュー言ってないでしょ。一回も言ってください。
おい、仲良くしてるね。この世界季節にいけるかな。昔グレートだった大きにまたグレートになるかな。あのさ、有名人な。
I cut the last part of that because I don't know if I really want to play start that early or something that explicit. Good morning, rise and freedom, total libertarian victory, at least for what's possible. Because, you know, politics, as Otto von Bismarck said, is about the art of the next best, the second best. Because, of course, utopia is no place. The ideal you hold in your mind you can only get closer to, but you will never achieve because, well, heaven is not a place on earth. It's the afterlife, right? We can only make the best of the world as it is. And let's give a big shout out, a big congratulations to Donald Trump, Rand Paul, working together in the same Republican Party. When Donald Trump oversteps his bound, Rand Paul steps in, gives an epic speech, says it's time to back off, art of the deal. Perfect, total victory. Every single time. You can always count on Rand Paul. I have to say, I really love all of the anime artwork that is making its way around the world. I have never been a big fan of anime. I do like some anime. I'm not entirely against anime, but I will say that I think that more people being exposed to art and artistic styles is great. Does everybody remember back in elementary school when they would bring in the works of art and you would get to pick or choose? At least, did you guys do this at your school where they would bring in beautiful artwork and the teacher or whoever it was, the art teacher, would explain to the students like who the painter was, you know, why did he cut off his ear, right? Was anybody else into that stuff? Van Gogh, Matisse, Picasso, Salvador Dali, the beautiful visuals, the things that people were creating before they could just type it into ChatGPT. Give me a beautiful, epic, sweeping painting that would make people from, 1901 say I'm a genius and I would be like the most powerful person then. If only I had a time machine. If only you had a time machine, and if you were listening to the President of the United States for stock advice, did you buy the dip? Did you go in and did you get some cash? Did you do a little wealth transfer from those boomers who don't want to allow you to work in sock factories? Zoomers? As we can see from the Minecraft movie, the children long for the mines, and they're destroying theaters. I read this morning in the New York Post, the new Minecraft movie. They've got all these unruly kids. And, in some ways, I have to say, when you see unruly kids, if you don't have kids or if you don't like kids, you can understand why, and if they're really infringing on your private property or something, if they're committing actual property damage, of course, it's a real problem. But when you see unruly kids, it's kind of like what Carolyn Levitt the other day said about Elon Musk versus Peter Navarro in the White House is that, you know what? Boys will be boys, and they will. And I don't get the Minecraft movie. I didn't play the video game Minecraft. Sure, I like video games, but I don't have time to sit around playing Legos on my Xbox, okay? So I have real baby. I have real challenges, real problems to solve, real incredible opportunities to come. I'm getting just some amazing stuff that's going on behind the scenes over here at the For Liberty Network that just really is making me happy. Working together with a team of professionals that I'm building right now for an epic event 19th, 20th, and 21st of June. It's going to be one of just the biggest few days of my life. It was so personally satisfying, and I can't wait to share with you all of the gory details. Needless to say, something else happened yesterday that's just totally wonderful and could mean really great things for us, for everybody who's a supporter of the For Liberty Network. Thank you, everyone. My pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. Support the Wake Up America show, guys, because the For Liberty Network is going places, and you should get on board. You know, I see a lot of these social media institutions and, influencers and some of these websites and things that we use right now. Some are really flourishing, and some are kind of dying on the vine, per se. And you have to sort of decide what you want the future of media to be, especially on the conservative right. And it's like, I see so many opportunities, and it's like, the For Liberty Network may not be the biggest thing in the world right now just yet, but it's amazing how quickly your fortune can turn on a dime. There's an old Thomas Jefferson quote. It was a fake Thomas Jefferson quote. Excuse me, Monticello will be very upset. Don't do it, Austin. Don't give it to fake Thomas quote. But I'm a great believer in luck, and I find that the harder I work, the more I have. Do you work hard? I work hard. People try to say, oh, get a real job. And it's like, bro, I'm working with supply chains, bitch. You're the D student trying to tell me about tariffs. Tariffs not a tax increase. Prices go up. I was told prices go down.
Can you
bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise. Support the Wake Up America show. Unlock the bonus content. Support the For Liberty Network. Unfortunately, today will not be a Thirsty Thursday. But don't freak out, everybody. Don't panic. We do have great guests for you today. It will be royal. But unless you're thirsty for, I guess, a little bit less than middle-aged white male activist, libertarians, former Ron Paul staffer Cliff Maloney, which I'm excited for. He's going to be with us this morning at 8 a.m., and we're going to have the king of all libertarians at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. So make sure you guys stick around. We're going to talk to the king about the libertarians. Was it a win or was it a loss? I'll tell you one thing I know. Whether it was a win or whether it was a loss in regards to what just happened in the last 4 days when many on the right went full Bernie bro, was it a win or was it a loss? It doesn't matter because I'm going to claim victory. That's for sure. It doesn't matter. I just say I won, and I did. Remember, guys, when I won in 2016, and even better, when I won in 2018? It was amazing. Guys, I'm having such a blast here on the Wake Up America show, and I hope you are too. So click that like button. It's free. You support the Wake Up America show. You support the For Liberty Network. You can also go to forlibertyshop.com, the number 4, libertyshop.com, to help unlock our bonus content. You can see there our delicious, relies on international trade coffees because, guys, if you like coffee, you're going to need international trade. We don't buy it from China, thankfully, but let's talk about Calvin Coolidge. Did he lay tariffs? Yes. Was he one of our greatest presidents? Yes. Was he wrong about tariffs? Yes. Would the American people have been better off if he hadn't laid his tariffs? Absolutely. Is there a whole long discussion about international trade and economics in this children's book? Absolutely not. That is a children's book. It gives a broad general overview of why Calvin Coolidge was so cool. You can get that at the shop, forlibertyshop.com. So you know the rules. If we hit $75 raised by the end of the show, guys, that means you unlock the bonus content. And it's another good one, Lego Javier Milei. The last one went viral. Javier Milei shared it to his 2 million fans. It's such a wonderful thing to see Javier Milei succeeding at everything. Why can't he be our president of the United States? Which isn't to say I don't support Trump. I do. Trump needs to finish his term. Then we need to rewrite the Constitution, and we need to make it so that only Javier Milei and maybe Elon Musk can run for president. What do you guys think? Are you into it? No? No? Not even for Elon? Not even for the Department of Government Efficiency? Come on, gang. We got to enjoy ourselves. We got to enjoy the fact that, you know who won yesterday? Elon Musk won. Thank you, Elon. He calling out those commie tards. This is not a pejorative. This is a descriptive, right? Peter Navarro, the guy who's the head of the trade policy, is like a 90s Democrat, but in like the degrowth. He's like negative socialist. He's like, stop cities from expanding, stop economies from growing. That was his platform. He ran for office, I think, 6 times as a Democrat in Southern California. And then we're all supposed to act like he's the second coming. This guy, Peter Navarro, he's outsmarted Milton. He's outsmarted Sowell. He's outsmarted Bastiat. He's outsmarted Schumpeter. He's outsmarted Bombewerk. He's outsmarted Mises, Rothbard, Ron Paul. He's outsmarted them all. Peter Navarro. Bullshit. Call bullshit. Calling bullshit. Thank you, Elon Musk. Thank you for calling him what he is. Dumber than a sack of bricks. I think Trump was smart to call in Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent, who is much less of a radical than the Lutnick and Navarro characters are. Calling out Bessent to, declare victory, spike the football. That's what they're going to do. Yeah, we won, touchdown. We weren't even on that side of the field, but it doesn't matter because we write the rules anyway, because America is the most powerful country in the world. We do what the hell we want. And you got to appreciate that. You got to respect that, because I have to say, no matter what you do, guys, whether you win or whether you lose, you will declare victory. I didn't do the hand gesture, guys. It's not the flat palm. Last night I was teaching karate and I got this awesome little kid who comes and he works so hard. And I don't know what I was doing yesterday, but he goes, "You look like you did like the salute." And he didn't say the salute. He was trying to say, he was like, "You look like you did the thing." I don't know what I was like. I was teaching them Japanese, and it's Jodan, speaking Ghibli and animation. I'm glad that I'm definitely the right person for the Ghibli anime Japanese stuff where I can explain to people. Jodan is upper, Chudan is middle, Gaidon is down. So all I can say, it's my heart goes out to Jodan. Jodan. Look, you have to bend your, although sometimes they did go, Lolita. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I know you guys love me, so why don't you kill me? Click like and subscribe to the channel. Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Drew Van Runkle says, "You Nazi." Firewick says, "The close fist of socialism." Yes. Soyuz Hiroshima. So this 10% tariff across the board is new, or what already existed? No, it's new. It's a pause in, I don't know, in the sense that you're taking a break from your wife. I don't know. What's the best way to characterize it? It's an increase in taxes. It's a 10% increase across the board on everything you buy from these countries, all countries. So, you're going to have... Walmart is playing hardball right now. I got to give it to Walmart. They're being very aggressive in protecting their interests in these fights. If you guys haven't paid attention to what Walmart has been doing, Walmart has been going out there, been like, "You need us, suppliers. You need us. You're going to eat these costs. You're going to take it on the chin and stuff." And I actually kind of appreciate it, right? It's one thing when the president's a bully, and I'm like, dude, I don't know if one man should be able to unilaterally increase taxes on the American people. I don't think I buy this whole emergency authorization that the president is having. The president is not supposed to lay taxes. As the judge was saying yesterday, what I think is really the point here is that there are certain constitutional requirements. And the requirement of Congress laying taxes is as intrinsic to Congress as running the military is to the president. The Congress shall have the power to lay. The Congress shall have the power of the purse, and the Congress is the one who are supposed to be doing this. And this, of course, regardless, I'm sure Congress is insider trading like crazy. I'm sure plenty of fortune. The surest way to get rich if you're not smart. Run for Congress, win a popularity contest. That's what it is. If you're not intelligent, if you're not particularly all that bright, or if you're particularly vindictive, just pretend like you like people when you're really actually a tyrannical sociopath who can't stand how people around you smell because their human pheromones on your reptile skin makes you feel awkward and uncomfortable, so you feel the need to tyrannize the rest of us. By the way, do you know what Tyrannosaurus Rex means? Does anybody know in the chat? Can we get a Tyrannosaurus Rex? Right, lizard tyrant. King of the lizard tyrants. That's what Congress are. They don't give a shit about us. Congress doesn't care about us. I think Trump does care about us. He's just wrong about tariffs. He's just wrong. A lot of people, they look at libertarians, they think they're dogmatic and they're ideologues and they're inflexible and they're intractable. And yet, praise this in Donald Trump as if he's not an ideologue on this. He certainly is an ideologue on this one. And, it's sort of like when you run for office, you have to, one of the most important things you can remember is you do have to represent everyone. You do have to represent everyone, even the people who didn't vote for you. And some of the language that I was hearing coming out of the White House from this Navarro and the Lutnick characters who are doing the trade stuff, is like Charlie Gasparino, my old buddy from Fox News. I need to get him on the show. It was really brave and powerful of him to say what he said, which was the real reason for the tariff pause, which is, you declare victory. It's the White House, right? They're playing a game strategy, and I get they've got like their Praetorian Guard, like the court jesters, who are the paid shit influencers of the conservative right, who are just shills and will say whatever they're paid to say. Right. I understand that. Right. Imagine the people who are not getting paid, who are just mindless shills. I get it. Right. But not everybody has to drink the Kool-Aid. Right. Not everybody has to give up everything that they've been fighting for immediately because you came along and wore a red hat and felt like you knew a thing or two. But, I see a lot of talk out there on the internet from people about like tariffs. And I see people saying things like, well, a whole lot of people just woke up about tariffs and they just started figuring they knew a lot about tariffs. And it's like, I've been seeing that quite frequently, that, all of a sudden everybody's a tariff expert and all this stuff. It's like, bitch, you are the one who just woke up. Adventures of the guy who just started paying attention. You are the one who just, you're fresh out of the Matrix. You're not a sensei yet, bitch. Shut up. Shut up. Shut your hole. Quiet down. Sit down, bitch. Read some Thomas Sowell. Read some Henry Hazlitt. Sit down, you stupid son of a bitch. I didn't see, when I was learning the Dewey Decimal System and learning the blade, your ass was picking your nose and eating it in the class when we were learning about Heil Hitler. Yes. What solutions do you have to offer? We have lots of solutions. Well, they're right there. As a matter of fact, I wrote a motherfucking 20-page manifesto. Who do I have to kill to get to read this shit? You won't read it. You don't read it. Don't lecture me. Lion Witch of the Wardrobe, C.S. Lewis, Aslan. Don't tell me about the old magic witch. I was there when it was written. Can I get an amen for C.S. Lewis? I said amen. You shut your mouths. You shut up and you sit down and you take a lesson from Rand Paul, Ron Paul, from Justin Amash, from Thomas Massey, from Thomas Sowell, right, to Milton Friedman. You read Free to Choose. You watch the videos. If you won't do it and you want to have an opinion about it, I ain't got time for you. Sit down and shut up. It's time for the return of the master. Bitches, which way should we choose? No more bottom up or more top down. The fight continues. Keynes and Hayek throwing down. So let me just say, L-Dubs, thank you. More bottom up or more top down. The fight continues. Keynes and Hayek throwing down. According to Navarro, you have a trade deficit with your daughter. The young one's going to have a better get to working to correct the deficit. Thank you, L-Dubs. Let's unlock that bonus content. Guys. Drew Van Runkle says, I'm hoping Trump's spastic behavior forces Congress to pull back some power from the executive. Agreed. Congress is supposed to have the power Congress has. The president should not, again, think of it like this. Should should judges, should the Supreme Court run the military? Why not? What was the purpose? Why were the founders such geniuses? But Austin, they laid tariffs. Bitch, you want to talk about tariffs? Don't even start with me when the founding father, and we don't have an income tax. Again, I'm just raring for a fight. I'm like the kids whenever they do the zombie chicken ride in the part of the movie Minecraft. This is like so boomer sounding, but like the kids are destroying the theaters. Nevertheless, she persisted. Austin is so mad he's singing. Yes. Free to Choose network on YouTube is great. Yes. Listen to Keynes versus Hayek rap. We'll play it all. I want to play my boy Charlie Gasparino, because he told it straight, and he it's tough for. Here's the thing. Charlie's a good man. He's a smart guy. I would have, if I could have him on my show every day. Fox Business, Fox News, they are so lucky to have him because he pretty much tells it straight. He plays it as close to his chest as he can, and to still be able to be a good reporter and be able to get the story and the news, the information, and get it out to the people. He'll tell you what's going on. And he's a Republican. He's a conservative in many ways. And I would say in many ways, he used to try and convince me, he's like, I'm very libertarian, Austin, very libertarian. And I was just like, whenever people always tell you that, you're like, but there's always an asterisk, right? There's always a but. And I actually remember my executive producer there at Fox Business, Gary Schreier, and I think he's back working there. He's like bounces around all the networks. He goes, one day we're sitting down in the studio, and he goes, Austin, he goes, I'm pretty libertarian. I go, oh, really, Gary? And I was like, he's a statist, right? Gary goes, yeah, I mean, I don't think you ought to be able to do coke off of a baby's head, but yeah, I don't know. He was smart. He would get you. You didn't want to mess with Gary Schreier. I never picked a fight with Gary Schreier. And ultimately, Gary Schreier, he was a tough son of a bitch, man. A tough slamming down phones and screaming. So this is the world that Charlie Gasparino lives in, right? Powerful, rich, Jewish banking executive television producer executives. I mean, these guys are tough as nails. What is funny is they would get so mad at you if you screwed something up. Make all this stuff happen. It's TV. It's live. We're going live in 5. And you're just like, oh. But then if I freaked out, I remember one time my guest was acting like an idiot on, not quite live television. I think we were like almost there, like 2 hours before. But I start freaking out because I'm like, oh, okay, I'm molding my behavior because I want to be like the executive producer, which I'm, rapidly approaching. And I'm freaking out because, my guy's acting like an idiot or whatever. And Gary, the executive producer, who's known for slamming down phones, to be just the most unhinged guy, crazy boss you've ever had. And I'm freaking out. And then he turns and looks at me. He goes, Austin, it's just television. Nobody's going to die here. It's just, I was so disarmed. But I've learned from the masters, and I'm excited to share with you what Charlie Gasparino, who I think is a good man, what his take is on what happened yesterday. This is what I believe is the honest truth.
Quite the moment, as you can imagine. The art of the deal's all over the Twitter sphere right now, as people say. I mean, maybe this is the way he planned it. To John's point, Charlie, about the Treasury Secretary saying maybe you could say that he goaded China into a bad position for themselves. Well, don't retaliate. Things will work out well, he said.
I mean, I want to tell you right now that Donald Trump outsmarted the world. Trust me. I'm an American. I support my president. But that's not really what happened here, from what I understand. And I know I'll get pushback, but here's what it is. First off, we should point out that one of the good things about this is that Scott Bessent is finally in the White House. He's finally leading this. I mean, up until a couple of days ago, it was Lutnick, it was Peter Navarro, the Commerce Secretary, the trade advisor, very much hawks. Now it's Scott Bessent, who believes in cutting deals, as opposed to just just putting these tariffs out there and let's be a mercantilistic economy. That's number one. But number two, let's recall what happened overnight. And from what I understand, and I'm getting this from people that are talking to the White House, what happened in the bond market overnight, the spike in yields on the 30-year and the 10-year bond, which showed that people were dumping our bonds. And who are those people dumping our bonds? Japan. the biggest holder of bonds was selling bonds. That's what I'm getting from some very big money managers. China, maybe to some extent, but it was largely Japan and others. If you have a mass sale of bonds, that means people are losing confidence in the U.S. economy, on the ability to do deals with us. And from what I understand, this is what forced the hand of this 90-day reprieve. Now, is it a good thing? You know, are people coming to the table? Yeah. But if you read between the lines, or not even what Scott Bessent said, we have no deals, right? There's nobody that is really there saying this is what we're going to do, and they paused it anyway. So
yeah, I gotta say, Charlie knows he's going to get pushback on that. But this is why people like Bruce Birtwistle, Fari Waco, L-Dub78, Dirty Mike, Joni Rankin, Luke Sacker, L-Dubs, Zambucas, Drew Van Runkle, and Cecilia, as well as Luke Sacker and others. This is why you guys watch the Wake Up America show, because I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm not going to sugarcoat things necessarily. I'm going to give it to you what I think is the truth to the best of my knowledge of my years of experience. Like right now, I'm at the peak of my fact-finding capabilities. Right, decades and decades in the media, an award-winning broadcast journalist, television, live television news. Now a major feature documentary. And God, I don't know, should I say this? Like, do you guys want to hear a little secret, or you guys want to hear some news? And it could be nothing, but it's sort of like serendipitous, because we have the Wake Up America show the For Liberty Network is producing. I should say Stonegate Pictures, the company that owns my intellectual properties. We're producing a historical documentary about the Battle of Athens, and it's an incredible tale about World War II veterans returning from the front to fight fascism at home. Stolen ballots, dirty elections, corruption, bribes, all in this little sleepy county called McMinn. And 2 years ago, Stephanie and I went there for an anniversary celebration of the event. We conducted interviews. We got all the drone footage. And I didn't release what we had because I said it really needs that extra juice. Well, we got the juice, and the battle scene is on. It's booked. It's going to be incredible. I contacted so many of my connections to bring together a great team of professionals to put together something special. And then yesterday, a small part in a film that I was in, playing the voice of over the radio for this really interesting new film coming out, which I think you all are going to be excited about. It stars Martin Kove, Jason Mewes, Snoochie Boochies. Martin Kove, fear does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, sensei.
Oh my God.
It's happening.
God. Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
Everybody stay calm. Yeah, that's right. The original sensei, the sensei of Cobra Kai Dojo, Martin Kove, in a new movie starring me too. They got into a big film festival. It's in Los Angeles. I got to get a ticket as soon as possible to get out to LA. I'm going there for the premiere. And there is where we're going to try and sell the Battle of Athens documentary, which might be a great opportunity, right? Let's do it. Let's make the For Liberty Network awesome. A new Liberty Network. As the old networks crumble, just like social media 1.0 fell apart, 2.0, now they're trying to push 3.0 on us and all these visors and headsets like we want to live in the Matrix. Well, I don't want to live in the Matrix. So let's build something new that's the Matrix, the For Liberty Network. Are you dropping your Rumble rants? Are you supporting the Wake Up America show? Are you ready to hear from the king of all libertarians? Get ready for the return of the master, the king of all libertarians, joining us live in less than 5. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Drop those Rumble rants to support economic freedom, free trade, personal liberty. We're going to speak about tariffs and what really happened inside the White House, the dust up, who was the winner, who was the loser, from the king of all libertarians when we get back on the Wake Up America show. It's time to go to medieval times. To be or not to be on the Wake Up America show. It's about to get weird. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government. Get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me...
Good morrow, fair watchers of Wake Up America. I am thy host, Austin. And this morning we welcome a rogue of rare wit, the self-crowned king of all libertarians, Pray, sire, grace us with thy presence, and thy tongue's sharp edge.
Hail, Austin, thou straight-laced herald of the airways. I come bearing jests and jabs aplenty, ready to spar over the follies of our time. Let's have it, shall we?
Aye, my lord, aye, my lord. First, let us turn to the matter of Trump's tariffs, those vexing taxes on goods from afar. The man hath draped our borders in a net of levies, and I, for one, am wroth. Liberty doth weep when trade is shackled thus. What say thee, O king?
Verily, Austin, thou art a man after my own heart. Tariffs be a pox upon the free man's purse. Trump's grand scheme to slap a toll on every trinket from China to Christendom doth chafe my libertarian soul. 'Tis not but a tax, lad, a thief in the night stealing coin from the common folk, whilst the crown grows fat. Yet, I confess, I am half tempted to perch upon the fence and watch the mad play unfold. Mayhap the orange lord hath a trick up his gilded sleeve, though I'd wager it's more of a bluster than brilliance.
A trick, sayest thou? I see no jest in this calamity. The market quaketh, stocks doth tumble, and all for what? To puff up Trump's chest as he bellows of trade wars won? Methinks this be no game, but a fool's errand. Liberty demands open gates, not walls of coin.
Peace, good Austin. Thine veins do bulge with righteous fire. You become so unearthed that you sing to the heavens. I loathe these tariffs as much as the next man, who'd rather buy breeches cheap from yonder shores. But I'll not yet cast Trump to the pyre. Let's see if his gambit doth bear fruit or not. If it flops, I'll be the first to cry, off with his economic head. For now I sip my ale and smirk at the chaos. 'Tis a grand shit show, and I have the front row seats.
'Tis true, 'tis true. Thou art too merry for my taste, though, king. This chaos doth not amuse me. 'Tis a dagger to the heart of freedom. Yet I'll grant thee this, we shall watch, and woe betide Trump if he proves a knave. Onward, then, to our next tale of woe. Now hark, summon Congress with furrowed brows and wagging tongues, call for a quest into Trump's brief pause of these tariffs. They sniff for insider trading, as if the man doth juggle stocks twixt his tweets. What thinkest thou of these noble sleuths, king?
Oh, what a merry band of muttonheads. These congressional clowns, draped in their robes of sanctimony, doth prance about crying foul, as they've never wet their own beaks in the trough of privilege. Insider trading? Pish! They'd know it well, for their mirrors be dusty from disuse. Trump's a rogue, aye, but this hunt's a farce. A mask of virtue to cloak their own greed.
Ah, well said, thou bawdy bard. These lords and ladies of the capital doth love a scandal when it points elsewhere. Methinks they clutch their pearls whilst their own portfolios swell. 'Tis a jest, this investigation. Trump's pause was but a hiccup, yet they'd make it a tragedy.
A hiccup, aye. More like a belch from too much ale. These tariff tantrums come and go, and yet Congress doth wail as if the heavens fall. I'd wager me half me kingdom, which be shed and a goat, that they've traded on whispers afore the bell. Hypocrites, the lots! They toast their folly and move on.
A toast indeed. May their cries be hollow. Let them chase shadows while the realm burns. But come, our next tale doth summon us. David Portnoy's Tariff Tango awaits. We turn to David Portnoy of Barstool fame, who hath danced a jig over these tariffs. First, he wailed of losing $7 million in coin when the markets plunged. Then, when Trump paused the levies, he crowed of making even more. I say, good for him, 'tis the game of the shrewd. Thy thoughts, king?
Shrewd? Ha! Portnoy's a jester in a fool's cap, prancing from woe to boast like a drunkard twixt taverns. Woe is me, 7 million gone, he cries, then struts like a peacock when the tide turns. Methinks he's less a sage than a sot, riding Trump's coattails while counting his gold. A pox on his flip-floppery. Where is his spine, I ask?
Hold thy venom, king. The man plays the game as it lies. He took a blow, then seized the rebound. 'Tis no crime to profit when the storm clears. Portnoy's no saint, but he's no fool neither. I'd wager thou'd do the same if thy shed and goat were on the line.
Mayhap, but I'd not bawl like a babe, then crow like a cock over it. Portnoy's a loudmouth with a ledger, not more. Yet I'll grant thee this, Austin. He's a dope, pure and simple, a rich dope, perchance, but a dope nonetheless.
On that we stand as one. A dope he be, though a wealthy one. Let us raise our cups to him, to his folly, and bid him adieu. And so, King Libertarian, our time doth wane. What parting words hath thou?
Fare thee well, Austin, and your intrepid audience. Thou a stalwart sentinel. To all ye watchers, keep thy wits sharp and thy purses guarded. And tune in tonight to rumble.com/Liberty Tonight at 9 p.m. in the time of Central to cast your gaze on our fantastical comedy extravaganza.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
The kingdom shall stand in pay attention with rapt attitude toward Liberty Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m. Central Time. That is the best show to watch in the evening. Far better than the Jester Chronicles. Have a good evening. Huzzah, King of all libertarians.
Huzzah!
Here. Yeah. You started the morning saying be cool, and just a few hours later, there was a pause put in on the tariffs. Can you walk us through your thinking about why you decided to put a 90-day pause?
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know? They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions. Because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents, they wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, you know, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history. And others also, but here.
Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they've been talking about tariffs for decades. How come when these Democrat elites want tariffs, everything's hunky-dory, but when President Trump wants tariffs, all hell breaks loose? Do you see this double standard?
I love this guy. Whoever the hell that is. That's really nice. I appreciate that question. No, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, everybody knew you had to do it, but they never had the guts to do it. It does take guts. It even takes guts for our country to go through it. That's why I say be cool. They were saying about, see, just be cool. It's going to work out. It's going to work out, and it's working out. I can tell you, working out maybe faster than I thought. But I said it's going to take a little conditioning. It's a transition to. It's really, I think, it's a transition to greatness. It's going to be greatness. Our country is going to be. There'll be nothing like it, and people investing in our country, they're going to do better than they've ever done before.
That's the message I want to hear. I really love the people yesterday who, the people that tie themselves up and not say the most ridiculous things. Like, you won't care if you lose money. And then the next day when the stock market grows, oh, wow, look, it's all. The people were telling me that it was fake value. We're saying that the stock market was fake value. It was fake value when it was going down. But when it came back, it was real value. Did anybody else have that experience? Listen, the Kool-Aid, the propaganda is for the enemies, right? The propaganda is not for me. I'm an American. I don't have to drink Kool-Aid, right? I understand you guys got a job to do and a mission. You feel like you're doing the right thing, right? And I'm a free American with free speech and a free voice, and I'll say what I please, which is informed by the facts and the truth, which is that people who were gaslighting or pissing on my leg and telling me it's raining, for example, can piss off.
because you said that these tariffs would go into effect on Monday. You said no pause. And today there is a pause. So how can people believe the word today?
It's not a question of that. You have to have flexibility. I could say, here's a wall, and I'm going to go through that wall. I'm going to go through it no matter what. And keep going, and you can't go through the wall. Sometimes you have to be able to go under the wall, around the wall, or over the wall.
That's interesting.
These guys know that better than anybody, right? You got to go around them sometimes. You're not going to go through them. So I consider, I think in financial markets, because they change. Look how much it changed today. We went.
Yeah, looking at the Dow futures down 1.4, 1.9, not 2.3, not really statistically significant there necessarily, but long bond yields up, reports Luke Sacker there. We appreciate you keeping an eye on the markets this morning for me. And I really think that this is actually kind of an important lesson, because one of the conversations that we had in the last few days, so many were flying around, right, in historical discussions, was, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR. We're talking about the New Deal. We're talking about how Herbert Hoover, the Republican president, remember, he laid tariffs. Remember, he did a lot of damage to the economy that FDR was allegedly supposed to help, right? And then he brings in the New Deal, right? And I've been warning, like, let's not enable the Democrats, so that we don't want to get AOC as president of the United States, right? Let's not have any unforced errors. But in regards to FDR's flexibility, it was a direct quote from FDR about running into brick walls and being willing to change course. And this is what I was talking about when we're having these conversations with people who are self-proclaimed MAGA leftists, right? These are people, and you're like, oh, MAGA leftists, right? And when people are freaking out about Ronald Reagan and saying Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell are idiots, then it's time for a reality check, and we have to talk about things like Smoot-Hawley and Herbert Hoover and the primary causes of the Great Depression. And we have to go back to history class, to junior high, when we were reading about these situations, and we have to have conversations about them. And one of the conversations was the flexibility of FDR, because FDR said he realized that he would run into brick walls, which is what Trump realized he had done. And I think it's because he found these ideologues, specifically Peter Navarro, to come in and to sell him a bill of goods. And it's Peter Navarro is like the ultimate in terms of confirmation bias, in terms of all economists who have ever studied trade, shows that free trade, or we say, well, when has free trade ever existed? When has real communism ever existed, right? It's all matter of degrees, from total command and control, centrally planned economies, all the way down to anarchy, right? And I get off of the train with Ayn Rand and Ludwig von Mises and Friedrich Hayek, the minarchy stop on the way to anarchy. So we're having conversations about flexibility, presidential flexibility. We're talking about Trump not being an ideologue to a certain degree. He wants the American economy to succeed. I agree with him, right? This isn't for me like throw the baby out with the bathwater. I still support Donald Trump. Everything was winning up until now. I don't appreciate stock market manipulation. It's not what one person in the world should ever have the kind of power to do that. To just the cost to all of us, the damage that one person can do without any check or balance to lay a tax, it can have the negative there's these things called negative secondary consequences. The things that there's what is seen, and then there's what is unseen. Remember, the government is destroying jobs. For every job that they quote unquote create, the government has to destroy 8 jobs, right? We have to kill, and the people who never had the job created aren't going to be there to complain, right? There is the seen, and then there is the unseen. Right. So in terms of the flexibility here, when we're talking about the New Deal, FDR said there were certain things you have to move. You cannot move certain things. It would be, if somebody was standing there trying to push the Great Pyramids by hand, you would think they were quite insane. Of course. Right. So the president makes a great point here where he talks about flexibility, and he was listening to cooler heads prevailed. Right. The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, had to step in. Elon Musk started stepping out of line. People were getting, like he said, a bit yippy.
Credibility, like, because you said that these tariffs would go into effect on Monday. You said no pause, and today there is a pause. So how can people believe the word today?
It's not a question of that. You have to have flexibility. I could say, here's a wall, and I'm going to go through that wall. I'm going to go through it no matter what. Keep going, and you can't go through the wall. Sometimes you have to be able to go under the wall, around the wall, or over the wall. These guys know that.
That's true, right? The Kobayashi Maru, right? You, Captain Kirk, you get into a situation, it's no win, you got to, go around it.
Better than anybody, right? You got to go around them sometimes. You're not going to go through them. So I consider, I think in financial markets, because they change. Look how much it changed today.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on it. And let's not just necessarily squawk about the day-to-day. We have to understand where we're at. And, I'm not going to necessarily say that one day on the stock market is indicative of something that is a long-term trend, but you do have to accept that that also could be a possibility. You have to be flexible with your mind in order to judge these things accurately, to ensure that you're being skeptical with yourself. I think people just aren't skeptical enough with themselves. And you have to be confident, and I think one of the things Trump does inspire is a confidence, and you should have confidence, but not to the point where you run into a brick wall. I'm so confident that I can push the pyramids. But I think, Trump's flexibility is definitely one of his key strengths. And the inflexibility of some of the ideologues on his staff on this issue will get him into trouble, because it was, like Charlie Gasparino said, it was the Japanese starting to sell the bonds, our allies, Japan, starting to sell the bonds, which shows that they don't have as much trust in us as a long-term partner. And the United States needs Japan. Japan needs the United States, if anything, just for the Ghibli memes. And the karate, and our shared intertwined history. Has there ever been a story as interesting or beautiful as the story of the revitalization of Japan? Like two mortal enemies, now best friends. I mean, we used to war with the British, right? And God bless them. I don't know if I honestly, I think I like the Japanese more. I got a whole lot in common with the British these days, and at least the Japanese provide things that are beautiful to the world. They are unique. They are first world. They are capitalist. They are grateful for the relationship that they have with the United States. Polite, hygienic. I know that there's a lot of there's a lot of reasons why American cities have been hollowed out due to ethnic strife and political graft and cronyism that has hollowed out the cities of this nation. But you would weep if you saw the beauty of some of these cities in Japan. And I've lived in New York City. I've lived in some of the most beautiful parts of Washington, D.C. I've seen what America is capable of. And it's just a damn shame that so much of America's beauty and greatness, and this is what I think I identify with the populists on, is that a lot of the greatness, a lot of the luster of America has worn off. That a lot of these towns, you can't believe it when you go, if you've ever been to Buffalo, New York, and I got to spend like 2 weeks in Buffalo doing a job long time ago, 25 years ago. And Buffalo, it's so sad to see what happened to cities like Buffalo. When you walk downtown, and it's just kind of biker gangs hanging out everywhere, right? And these grand palatial theaters. And for me, when I go to a place like that, I see ghosts. I hear ghosts of the people who were there, the crowds of people who were there in Buffalo, of all places. I mean, at that time, looking at the Great Falls, Niagara, of course, was like the most interesting thing there is. And now we can all see it on our smartphones. So let's not forget the patterns, right? Just to confirm our biases about greatness lost in the United States, because certainly there has been a measure of greatness that has been lost in the United States. But if there's a reason we lost greatness, if there's a reason that the luster has worn off, it's because we have had too much central planning, too little liberty. We have not had too much freedom. Can I get an amen? America needs more liberty. Every time you find some massive crisis or some problem, government has its sticky, stinky, dirty, bloody, poopy fingers all over it. Let's talk to Cliff Maloney about that, former Rand Paul staffer. It's the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
What you called a war on showers. They had certain regulations that basically killed the water pressure of showers and other water appliances.
You can say it. Go ahead. What are the appliances?
I mean, it's everything, sir.
Sinks and toilets.
Dishwashers, toilets, sinks. But the shower heads are a
There's
huge
no
deal.
water. You don't get water. It's ridiculous.
So with this executive order, we're effectively going to be reversing that set of regulations to ensure that Americans have choice in the consumer market. If they want a low-flow shower head, they can buy one. If they want a real deal shower head, they should have the ability to
You buy a new house, you pay a lot of money, and the developers, you're not allowed to do anything more. They put restrictors on. They used to have a restrictor where you could take it out, but now they weld it in. And you take a shower or wash your hands, whatever you do, including dishwashers when no water comes out. But you wash your hands, and in my case, I like to take a nice shower to take care of my beautiful hair. I stand under the shower for 15 minutes till it gets wet. It comes out drip, drip, drip. It's ridiculous.
President Trump signed an executive order Wednesday targeting water pressure regulations implemented by former Presidents Joe Biden and Barack Obama, touting that the action will make America's showers great again. Can we get an amen on that? My next guest is a former Rand Paul staffer. He's one of the premier activists that does the kind of groundbreaking activism that swings elections from D's to R's. We take your purple states, we turn them red states. How do we do it? We find the man with the plan, Cliff Maloney. If there's anybody who understands the art of the deal in the liberty movement, it's Cliff Maloney. Cliff Maloney joining us live right now. What's up, Cliff? How you doing, brother?
AP, I'm doing great on the road here in Pennsylvania. Excuse the crappy Wi-Fi and setup, but glad to be on the show.
Yeah, glad to have you here. I just played the clip of Donald Trump talking about going after the water pressure regulations in the showers. And he says that this is bad. We need pressure because of my big, beautiful hair. We're going to make shower heads great again. Cliff, you and me and like Jeffrey Tucker and all these other libertarian guys, we've been like, there have been white papers written about this subject. And he just walks in and is like, all right, everybody, you can have water pressure in our shower. Does this mean we all need to upgrade our hot water in our homes? Do we need bigger tanks here, Cliff?
You know, I think there's probably 10 people in the world that when they saw that report and saw that clip thought, oh, wait, didn't Jeffrey Tucker tell me about this 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I have to give Jeff Tucker so much credit.
Jeffrey Tucker.
Because, this is kind of the weird world of libertarian, ideology where every once in a while something that we've been screaming about becomes reality. But no, I'm totally on board. I hope Trump does this for so many of these random regulations and just put some of these bureaucrats in their place and just goes nuts. But yeah, I'm all in. Very excited.
Okay, so getting rid of regulations. There's so many great things that are happening in the Trump administration. So many reasons to be excited about the future of the United States. But then the elephant in the room, Cliff. No, listen. I mean, am I not supposed to be triggered when someone calls themselves a MAGA leftist?
It sounds like some fucking commie gobbled.
It's funny because of all people, I can say this to you. The idea of labels in politics is just one of the funniest things when people come up with these different terms, right? I mean, one, let's start with the idea that we lost the word liberal, 40, 50 years ago, right? But it's so hilarious when you run into these certain people who think that, this terminology makes sense. When obviously it doesn't. But no, I don't. I think MAGA leftist is wacko. But I mean, there are people out there who just have no idea about basic economics, and they got in for the wrong reasons, and it's this, and this. And you see it on the left a lot, but you also see it on the right. And so we're always trying to figure out how to navigate these landmines, to not deal with these crazy labels.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I get there's a certain layer of propaganda that's always going to come out, right? And no matter what administration it is, there's always and there's the Kool-Aid drinkers who are that is their job, right? And you got to understand if you're hired, you take the king's coin, you work for the king's song. You can understand why all the king's horses and all the king's men are going to be running cover, but. That I feel like the propaganda is for other people. I don't have to pretend like I'm stupid on trade. It's like here's the thing. It's like I had people saying that I was a liberal or a communist. If you don't want Americans to work in sweatshops, then you're a communist. Although it's just it's a very confusing time for people who are principled, Cliff.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I got a lot of questions about the tariffs, right? A lot of people came to me and said, hey, you did all this work in Pennsylvania. You got Trump elected. You're a free trade guy. And my answer has been simple across the board. I want to see how it plays out. When people use that, I don't mean it as an excuse. I mean it as the truth. Like, let's actually see how this plays out. Obviously, we've got this 90-day pause, and a lot of these countries have now agreed to zero out, some of the trade deal stuff. So, yeah, I understand there's a lot of people kind of screaming, kicking, and moaning, and I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, I'm a big fan of free trade. I just think if he's using it as a tactic versus using it as something that's more of a principle or some sort of belief, let's see how it plays out. Here's the thing I'll say, Austin, to all of my favorite liberty folks out there. We've had Democrats and Republicans in the Uniparty coming together for probably about 50 years now, bankrupting the American people and the economy running as it runs. Here's something different. So even if you are a free trader, even if you're somebody that says, hey, listen, I don't believe in tariffs, at least believe in some sort of different approach to try to shake up this complete control of our monetary policy, this complete control of our budgetary policy, and use this as something that, hey, maybe we're going to be able to change the system and reformat our global economy here in the U.S. Hopefully we stay as the world leader. But eventually, I mean, as you know, the dollar is going to run out in terms of being the most powerful currency. And, it's either, hey, let's use tariffs to shake it up or end the Fed. I hope end the Fed is next, but we're not there yet.
I agree. I think that Rand Paul is brave, and Ted Cruz even as well, standing up for what they believe in. And, you got to have those voices of people who are going to keep people on the right track. Because regardless, if it is a tactic, because a lot of people in the MAGA circles, of course, say this is a tactic to get better trade deals. Okay, I actually have said from the beginning, like the important caveat is if that is really the goal, then I absolutely support that as well. I'd love to see us have freer trade with Europe or with Australia or all of these countries. There's a reason, I think, to be antagonistic towards China in many ways, although you also have to remember, be careful that trade wars can turn into hot wars, right? There are multiple examples of this. I mean, the South in the Civil War, they seceded, yes, for the state right to own chattel slavery, but they were also pretty angry about things like the Tariff of Abominations and the Northern industrialist push against their agrarian interests. And of course, the trade embargo with Japan eventually led to them attacking us in Pearl Harbor. So trade can stimulate conflict in ways that I think a lot of people are, maybe they're immune to seeing those secondary or tertiary effects of those things. So it's important, I think, for people like Rand Paul or Ted Cruz to speak up so you have a principled voice. So it's like Thomas Massey. They all pile on Massey when he's just being Massey, but you got to let Trump be Trump. Okay, but let Massey be Massey, let Rand be Rand, right?
Yeah, and I think you're spot on that it's always good to have someone in the room that is espousing the principles. They've got enough votes, in terms of the Senate. They've got enough votes in terms of the House. So it's good to have a voice of kind of a calm voice of sanity, if you will, to kind of walk us through what's happening. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I do think this is a tactic. I don't know the answer to that. I can't guarantee it. I'm not here on the Wake Up America show to say, hey, I've got insider info. But like I said, I'd rather see this whole juggernaut getting shook up rather than us just kind of on this path to bankruptcy and having the rest of the world walk all over us. You know, so I think this should be step one, and then let's pull it back and zero a lot of these out. Step two, let's end all foreign aid. You know, and step three, let's cut the government by 25%. A libertarian can dream, but I do think this is a good first step in terms of let's actually see where it lands and if the tactic works.
Well, if we have art of the deal, why can't we have art of the deal with Congress, right? Where can't we get a good deal out of Congress that actually cuts spending, right? Because my fear is just that if we don't get these cuts and give Trump credit absolutely where it's due, he's trying to cut the Department of Education. He's shutting down institutions, at least temporarily, until the Democrats get in. And, you know, they get spooked, and then the American people get spooked, and then the Democrats take over, and they just start doing back what Barack Obama and Joe Biden was. I didn't vote for Kamala Harris because I didn't want the United States to turn into the United Kingdom where, you know, instead of getting shot, you get spooked by a crazy psycho from Syria or Sudan. You got to get knifed by, you know, these immigrants who are coming in, who are clearly terrorists, who are clearly dangerous to our country, right? We absolutely need to have security when it comes, national security when it comes to people. We need to know who's coming into our country and have a orderly, safe, legal migration process. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, there's this fear that you're taking on too much, and if the Democrats come back in 4 years, if we don't get the Congress's ass in gear, if we don't win the next election, Cliff, it's all over. I mean, and this is really where your forte is. So talk to me a little bit about that, because, you know, midterms coming up, right? I want to see the Republican Party expand their majority. I want to see, you know, actual legislation passed. So what's going on the ground out there?
Yeah, well, look, let's understand kind of the expectation in terms of the midterms. Okay, look at every midterm election post a new president being sworn in. Aside from George Bush during 9/11, there really has not been a midterm that has swung in the direction of the incumbent. I mean, even you look at, you know, 2022 post Biden, yeah, it wasn't the red wave people wanted, but they did have the House after that. So I always tell individuals, make sure expectations align with reality and make sure you're not going to be like, what happened here? But I think what you have, and Austin, I've said this on your show before, I think you have a two-step process with DOGE that is going to determine the entirety of the midterm. Step one, expose the waste, fraud, and abuse. And step two, defund it. Now, if you asked me, the art of the deal with Congress is, hey, the swamp does not make deals. They are the deal. Right? There is no cutting spending. There is no exposing these things and then actually defunding them. And so that is what I tell everybody to keep their eye on, is when they have the actual budget vote. I think the budget vote this year will be in September, is the next funding bill. They've already kicked the can down the road once this year. Massey objected. I think he was the only one. Democrats came together, supported it, I'm almost positive. And they kicked it to September. But that's what people should have their eye on. And Austin, if you ask me about the midterm, I think it's going to come down to how does the economy play out based on this tariff tactic we're seeing from Trump. And then number two, what do Republicans do? Remember, just a couple years ago under Biden, the Republicans all screamed, they kicked, they moaned, they shouted fascist when the IRS had 80-some thousand new agents. And then what did they do the very next month? They gave the IRS more money in the budget. These are Republicans. So I just don't have any time for this talk. And then when it comes time to actually walk the defund train, they don't show up. And so that's the battle I tell people to look at. I think 2026, if the economy really is roaring, I think we have the potential here, because of the lack of message from the Democrats, because of the lack of a national leader. I think it becomes very tough for them to run an anti-Trump campaign when the guy's going to be on his way out over the next 2 years once we hit 2026. So if the economy's in the tanks, could be a banner year for Democrats. But I honestly, at this point, think people are liking Trump on foreign policy. If he's pulling back a lot of these wars, I think people are going to like Trump in terms of competency much better than the left. So I think it comes down to the bank account. and where do people stand when it is the economy they're looking at? And nobody knows the answer to that. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Jeffrey Tucker. Nobody can predict exactly what's going to happen, but that will determine how 2026 plays out.
So what does this mean for you, Cliff? Where are you focusing in on specifically? Give us the more granular, surgical approach you're taking to make sure that the best possible scenario, the best possible outcome for all of us, for our whole country, turns out the way we want it.
Yeah, so people are asking me all the time, hey, after the 2024 success in Pennsylvania, you're going to go to all these other swing states. What are you going to do? Well, first and foremost, we're doubling down on Pennsylvania. So we have the PA Chase program that we ran in 2024. We're running it in 2025, hiring another 120 full-timers, knocking 500,000 doors, and we're going to be targeting a lot of local elections across Pennsylvania. People say, well, why? Why are you doing that? Well, look, it's my home state, and I want to build a red wall, not so that rhinos can win, but so that actual people that believe in the Constitution, we have sort of a red wall so the Democrats can't win. They can't win Pennsylvania. They cannot win the White House. And so our governor in 2026, he'll be up for re-election, Governor Josh Shapiro. That's going to be an amazingly tough race, but one we're going to fight. And then obviously I'm hoping for J.D. Vance in 2028. But if we keep building year after year, I think we can make Pennsylvania the next Florida or the next Ohio. And the only way we do that is permanent infrastructure, continuing to double down, not giving up a year or 2 years. So very excited about Pennsylvania.
You know what? What you've just analyzed there is something that I analyzed, a long time ago with politics, is that you can't win the battle just with summer soldiers. You can't win the battle if you got to have some people who are willing to stay with George Washington in Valley Forge and eat onions out of the onion patch and nothing else. Because it's just the reality of war. It is a I believe in the perpetual campaign, because the left, perpetual revolution, they're agitating constantly. This violence against the Tesla dealerships, Cliff, is a perfect example of what the left does to do voter intimidation and to build themselves up. They are working in the off years, but it's like for too long, the people on our side, and I saw it with libertarians, I see it with Republicans, right? The Democrats never sleep. They never stop agitating. They never stop. They as soon as we close our eyes for one brief moment to rest, they're sneaking up on us, right? And so what you're doing, building this more permanent infrastructure in states like Pennsylvania where it matters, where it really counts, not just, I do it on the weekend. You're not a weekend warrior here. We need a full-time active military. I mean, you're laughing, but it's true, right?
Austin, you were... this is a softball, and your audience isn't going to believe it, but literally there was a special election in Lancaster that the Republicans lost, and it is legitimately the exact playbook that you just outlined, right? January comes around, Josh Shapiro, our governor, once again, they have no message, they have no leader, but guess what? They've got 105 full-time people on the ground. They do not sleep. There is no off season. This is a business.
Yes.
And it's a business. It's a religion for the Democrats. Republicans, we're out to lunch, right? We didn't knock a single door. We didn't chase a single ballot. It was a Trump plus 15 district, and they flipped a Trump plus 15 district. The first time that's happened in Pennsylvania history, and it's because of what you just said. We are hanging around. They have a 365-day machine, and I'm trying to end that. The Lancaster race proves that what we're trying to do must happen, and that's where I'm doubling down on.
Good. All right. So in terms of the engagement with the Republican Party, there does seem to be a group of people in the GOP that just want to spend money on like advertising, and God bless them. Please sponsor the Wake Up America show. However, there are people who think that that's all that there is that needs to be done. There's a sort of there's a class of parasitical people, Cliff, we call them, right?
Kind, Austin. You're being very kind.
Yeah. Just I try and keep it PG to PG-13 around here. I'll say what I really want to say later, but the fact is that they screw the GOP because they just want to stay in their K Street offices, in their cushy, nice little offices there in Washington D.C. and not have to go out and do anything. They don't want to knock doors. They're not going to talk to people or shake their hands. Ew, gross. They don't want to have anything to do with the public. They're elitists. We shouldn't be giving them our money, those kinds of consultants.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I mean, when I first got into this, Austin, coming from libertarian world to the GOP world, I couldn't understand it, right? And the first experience I had was like Fetterman versus Oz. You know, Fetterman spent about $10 million chasing ballots. And Oz, they didn't pay full-time ballot chasers. So it was 10 million versus $0, which was just insanity. So I just tell people all the time, the consultant class is thinking they're still in the age of Karl Rove on the right. The left doesn't put up with it, right? They look at the rules and they create the best possible plan to get as many votes as possible to win the election. And they don't put up with it. They say, no, listen, you're going to get your cut on this, but we got to do X, Y, or Z. The right just says, hey, a lot of these races, let's just do TV and maybe we'll send some mail. And the reason that happens, Austin, is not just the incentive that they get their 15 or 20 or 25% kickback, but it's also the professional class versus the working class. Okay, when I'm hiring door knockers, a lot of these kids are blue collar, they're working class, and it's tough management, right? It's a tough job. People are saying, get off my lawn. They're getting the doors slammed in their face. Obviously, not every door. We have a lot of positive interactions. But if you want to cut TV ads, you hire somebody to edit your videos, and then you work with a media buyer and place the ad. That's it. It's professional class. That's why I always tell people we have great job security in the door knocking business because nobody wants to run these programs. But the left has figured out community organizing, 100% paid ballot chasers, paid door knockers. It is the most impactful way when it comes to winning elections. So my war is against the Republican consultant class. I haven't been afraid to call them out. I was just on Steve Bannon's War Room, kind of having those conversations and saying, I'm tired of these old school consultants. And I'll say it on your show. The old school Karl Rove way of thinking it's all about messaging and candidate quality is dead. And if Republicans want to win, they have to adapt or they're going to die.
Love it. Adapt or die. Join or die with Cliff Maloney. Still out there in the streets. Anything else you need to share with our audience? Maybe plug before we let you go, my friend.
No, it's cold here in Pennsylvania. AP, appreciate you. Appreciate the Wake Up America audience. You guys were vital to us funding a lot of our ballot chasers in 2024. I would ask anybody, pahchase.com. If you believe in permanent infrastructure, if you want us to fight back with a liberty angle, with principled ballot chasers and warriors, always got to put that caveat in there. pahchase.com and on X @Maloney. Appreciate you, AP.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, Cliff, man. There's just very few people like yourself out there. You're like special forces. You're the SEAL Team 6 of libertarianism. We appreciate what you do. Have a good one.
All right, take care.
Yeah, now some critics are saying, you look too glamorous when you're wandering through these mega prisons, or, you shouldn't be all tacked out, posing for cameras. What do you say to those people?
Well, Jesse, every day I wake up and there's new criticisms. It's something different every single day. So I try not to pay attention to the noise. Obviously, I'm guided by the folks that I work with every day to be appropriate for the situation that I'm in and to take the same precautions that they do. And I will tell you that I oversee 26 different components of the Department of Homeland Security, and they are so proud of the fact that I'm willing to wear an ICE hat, that I'm willing to wear an HSI vest, that I'm willing to go, into their and wear something and be proud of them and the work that they do. They didn't have that with the last leadership team. They were ashamed of them, didn't let them do their job.
He wore Sid Mashburn. That's what he wore. All right. Secretary, thank you so much. Stay safe and keep up the great work.
You bet.
Wood. Just kidding. I love you, honey. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Camellia Peterson in the chat. What's up? We appreciate all of our friends joining us here live on the Wake Up America Show. If you want to unlock that bonus content, do what Joni Rankin did. Drop a Rumble rant. Can you bless me with something? Money-wise.
Can you suck it?
Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, AP for Liberty, and we stand for economic freedom and personal liberty over here. We love America. I have to say that all of this trade war in the last week has just really been a great way for me to talk to you guys about our coffee. The Wake Up America Show is fueled by Founding Flavors Coffee. Absolutely delicious, rare, choice coffees. Founding Flavors has Jeffersonian Java, Thomas's Painkiller, Franklin's Electric Elixir, Adams's Patriotic Perk. You want that dark roast? Put it in an espresso machine. Serve it up hot, fresh, and delicious. If you love coffee, this is a coffee for people who love coffee. You must understand that when you get into the coffee business like this, at the first step, like Stephanie and I are, you have to find unbelievably delicious coffee to sell because of what you're going to be able to move in terms of quantity. If you cannot compete with all of the big guys, what do? Well, you compete on quality and branding. These boxes are beautiful. That is Jefferson's Monticello, Thomas's Painkiller, the signing of the Declaration of Independence with Benjamin Franklin, sipping from his electric elixir, Adams's Patriotic Perk in a beautiful 18th century Boston Harbor. Your friends will want it. You will be proud to serve it to them. You will feel amazing when you get it. If you don't get it, if you've never tried it, you are missing out. You must go to forlibertyshop.com and buy some today. Help to unlock the bonus content. If you unlock the bonus content, you'll get to see today's incredible Lego animation about Javier Milei and the tale of the IMF loan. We're going to have what looks to be a beautiful day, and you will enjoy the bonus content because it appears it was just unlocked. You blessed me with something. Thank you, guys. Thanks for going to the shop and unlocking that delicious Founding Flavors, that delicious bonus content thanks to your purchases for Founding Flavors coffee. You can only get it at forlibertyshop.com. Enjoy the bonus content, guys. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. All right, folks, gather round. It's time for another round of What in the Free Market is Going On down in Argentina. President Javier Milei, yes, the chainsaw-swinging, government-slashing libertarian economist who somehow got elected in a country that spent decades neck-deep in socialism, just landed a $20 billion deal with the International Monetary Fund. That's right, $20 billion. And before you ask, no, it's not for another flashy World Cup bid or a giant steak-shaped monument in Buenos Aires. It's to keep the lights on while Milei continues trying to blowtorch the bloated Argentine state into something leaner, freer, and possibly functional for the first time in, well, anyone's lifetime. Now on the surface, this deal looks like a win. Argentina's been walking a fiscal tightrope for years. Actually, it's less a tightrope and more like a frayed shoestring hanging over a pit of inflation and despair. Milei's reforms have already slashed public spending, frozen infrastructure boondoggles, and put a hard stop to the endless subsidies that turn the government into an economic babysitter. But here's the rub. Radical reform takes time, and time, unfortunately, doesn't pay the bills. Enter the IMF, stage left, holding a checkbook and a clipboard. This deal gives him the breathing room to keep pushing reforms, while stabilizing markets and calming investors. That's the upside. The risk? The IMF doesn't exactly hand out cash with a wink and a handshake. There are strings, big ones. Strings that look suspiciously like long-term repayment plans, reform guidelines, and pressure that could curb the very boldness that got Milei elected in the first place. And let's not kid ourselves. The IMF has a history. Argentina knows it well. In fact, this isn't their first dance. It's their 22nd program with the IMF since the 1950s. That's not a partnership. That's a dysfunctional relationship with weekend custody of monetary policy. The last big deal was just a few years ago, a $44 billion loan during the COVID era that fizzled out in spectacular fashion. Inflation skyrocketed, reforms stalled, and the public grew even more disillusioned. So when people hear Argentina and IMF in the same sentence, their first reaction isn't hope, it's déjà vu. So here's where we have to ask the hard question. Is this $20 billion lifeline a strategic move to buy time for real economic freedom? Or is it just a high-interest delay button that'll pull the rug out from under reforms down the line? Supporters argue this is exactly the kind of bold move needed to escape the endless cycle of inflation and debt.
The money gives the country the cushion to weather the short-term pain of removing price controls, cutting off unsustainable subsidies, and opening up markets to competition. And let's be honest, nobody else was going to float Argentina $20 billion and say, yeah, take your time, get your house in order. But critics, some even within his team, worry this could dilute the radical vision, because once you're on the IMF's tab, you're no longer the one calling all the shots. Bureaucrats in Washington start whispering about moderation, social protections, and measured transitions. Next thing you know, your economic revolution gets downgraded to policy adjustments, and suddenly you're back to debating subsidies for public tango lessons. Okay, maybe not tango, but you get the idea. Still, there's a path forward here. If Milei can stick to his guns, cut spending, shrink government, deregulate, and actually use the IMF's money to grease the gears of transition rather than fuel more state expansion, this could be remembered as the turning point, the moment Argentina stopped playing economic roulette and actually placed a long-term bet on liberty, markets, and reality. It's a risky bet, no doubt, but here's the kicker. So is doing nothing. So is printing more pesos. So is pretending that state-run programs funded by debt and fantasy are somehow for the people. And look, Argentina isn't alone. Every country that piles on debt, expands entitlements, and kicks tough decisions down the road should be watching this closely. Milei is doing what politicians in most developed countries won't even whisper in private. He's cutting, he's consolidating, he's confronting the beast head on. He's putting political capital on the line to fix what's broken, not just patch it with duct tape and applause lines. The world needs more of that. And there's a certain electricity in the air, like the feeling that, against all odds, something real might actually take root. You can see it already. Inflation is easing, markets are stabilizing, investment interest is creeping back in. But more importantly, there's movement, momentum, hope. Not the empty kind sold during campaign seasons. The kind built on trade, growth, and personal responsibility. Argentina's been here before, but never quite like this. The chainsaw is buzzing, the checkbook is open, and this time, the story might just end differently.
It even goes further than that, Maria. Things as outrageous as trying to get workers back into the office. We actually had workers that showed up at the office to protest having to come back to work at the office. So we're finding all kinds of things with the Doge work, the squeal work that I have done for 10 years. And thank heavens we have President Trump and Doge, the Office of Government Efficiency, that's finally cracking down on these types of activities.
Yeah. They don't want to come back to work, the government employees, but they do want to come back to protests. You can't make this stuff up, man. What is this? Good morning. Good morning, pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. Thank you very much for blessing me with something. Hope that I blessed you with our little Lego Javier Milei mini documentary bonus content. I hope you guys are enjoying those. Always trying to think of creative and fun ways to inspire, to entertain, to titillate, to excite, to infuriate, and to inform as we stand by our principles of economic freedom and personal liberty. That's what I'm all about. AP for Liberty. So I started up a For Liberty network. It's got 2 other shows. Count them, 2 other shows. Actually, 3. 1. 2 shows. 3 shows. Count them up. Culturama is at 7 p.m. Central Time tonight. Daniela, she's a Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree. She's going to join you tonight at 7 p.m. when you join her at rumble.com/Culturama. She's taking back tomorrow today. So watch it. And once you're done, don't stop watching. Don't stop the rhythm to the bang bang boogie to the rhythm of the boogity beat. At 9 p.m., directly after Culturama, it's Liberty Tonight, starring Brian Piata. and the king of all libertarians, who we saw earlier on the Wake Up America show today. So if you support liberty, if you're for liberty, can we get a like over there in the show? LDub78 joining us here live. Nice to see you, brother. Joey Matto, Luke Sacker, LDubs, Grizz Cheese joining us. Yes, the content's kind of a downer today. It can't all be happy sunshines and rainbows and dire woods. You know what I'm saying? It's not every day they bring back 20,000-year-old extinct ancient wolves. So make sure you guys are clicking that like button. Support the Wake Up America show. Vote early and vote often. Click the like button and support the Wake Up America show. If today's your first time watching the show, click the follow button as well. We'd love to have you be a regular guest. This show is Mondays through Fridays from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. And it's a blast. It's a hoot, and the comments are even better. So join us.
What do you think of the new leadership, Jasmine, AOC, and Bernie?
I consider Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to be the leader of the Democratic Party. She's entitled to her opinion. I'm entitled to mine. As I've said about her before, I think she's the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle. And our plan for dealing with her...
You didn't plan that out. We got to hurry.
Our plan for dealing with her is called Operation Let Her Speak.
Yeah! Operation Let Her Speak. I like the little pirate music underneath that. Fiery Waco, thank you very much, sir. Says, what's so wrong with sweatshops? Have you seen the average American youth lately? We could use some sweating. I can hear the Zoomers now. Waco, we can't even get them to work at a Panda Express. There's all of this romanticism on the right now where they're posting things like, look what they took from you, and it's just a double wide trailer, and I'm like, look what they took from you. Bro, I never lived in a trailer. Am I an elitist for not wanting to live in a trailer? I mean, I'm pretty sure that that was not what I was told prices would be going down and we were going to be making America great again, not having to go back 2 or 3 or levels of poverty, right? So no.
But it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Thank you, Norm McDonald. Good morning, pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. Very funny, though, and thank you for the $10 donation. Luke Sacker, Grizz Cheese, Joni Rankin, LDub78, Joey Matto. We are a small band of merry rogues and freedom fighters over here on the For Liberty Network. It's exciting to see how much of an impact libertarian ideas have, even if people don't know. Like, Trump is going to get the credit for the shower head, but Jeffrey Tucker, longtime activist, has been writing about these ideas for dozens of years. Getting the ideas out, it's the thing where there is seen and there's what is unseen. You have to, at some point, sort of reach a consensus amongst society for the types of changes to happen that you want to see. Change just doesn't spring out of overnight. It doesn't come from nowhere. There are people out there who are doing the yeoman's work of advancing the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. Because like we were talking about with Cliff, you better be damn sure that the enemies of liberty are out there fighting the fight, trying to undermine what the passion project of people like Cliff Maloney and Camellia Peterson, who's out there standing strong for freedom, and Senator Rand Paul and others. Because frankly, not everybody on your side is always right. And not the Democrats are all guaranteed to almost be wrong. So you have to be careful when you invite Democrats into your party, guys like this Peter Navarro character, and not give them too much power. I understand the desire for change, and I don't think that it should point to the trailer park. Degrowth and the idea of reducing the American economy's greatness to something, to calling it fake value, people's homes fake value. It sounds like 2008, the mortgage crisis, right? The sort of Baghdad bobbing that goes on from some sectors of society.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that.
Will you do a 90-day pause? Would you consider that?
Or Bill, yeah, I think that the president is going to decide what the president's going to decide.
Here's the thing. This is not a negotiation.
There is no postponing. They are definitely going to stay in place for days and weeks. That is sort of obvious.
Would you be open to a...
Come on, man. Part of the deal. I mean, if I was Lutnick, I'd be like, I would resign in disgrace. Resign in disgrace. Lutnick and Navarro. I mean, you know, you got to have like your court jesters and you got to have people out there, but you don't put them in charge of anything. And I just want to say it's important for us to remember that not everybody who acts like our friend is actually your friend. Not everybody who pretends to be on your side is actually on your side. I liked this post from a guy who goes by the name of The Little Platoon. Says, irrespective of the politics and the economics, people should really use this to do a hygiene check on influencers. Speaking as one. If anyone you follow flips from yesterday's right-wing Bolshevism, tariffs are permanent, good, eat the rich, losing money is healthy, you don't need luxury goods anyway, workers to the mines, and then start saying the exact opposite, they were just out of the deal, negotiating position, never going to last, look at the stock market bounce, you should unfollow them. Yes, thank you. Everyone knew how to ridicule grifters on the left. Affluent, white, metro leftists pretending to speak for poor blacks and browns, but the same principle applies to grifters on the right. It was never about helping the dispossessed. None of these people know anything about the economics of manufacturing. Lauren Gilbert Patriot Cat ain't sending her son to work in a factory. It was always a purity spiral. Cults are bad. Don't be in one. Yes. The stripper likes me. You love to see it. So welcome to the Wake Up America Show. Oh, there it is. Okay, the clip that I was doing. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. If today's your first time, click the like button and follow as well. Fire Waco says, I had to live in a Quonset hut as a kid for a time.
If I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese.
Did you guys catch that? Did you guys catch that? Watch it again. Look here. Capitalism kills, she says. This urban liberal white woman. Look here. Capitalism kills. Then look. Surrounding. You get the joke here?
Well, if I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. Yeah, if I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in China, if I lived in China, Well, out of my ears, my little black baby is, and that's my fact. Now if I lived in Russia, I'd have some Chinese children. Yeah, if I lived in Prussia, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in India, they'd still be Chinese children. And out of my toes, my little blue baby grows, and that's another fact. Now if I lived in Ireland, I'd have some Chinese children. Yeah, if I lived in Ireland, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in Spainland, they'd still be Chinese children. And if I lived in Greeceland, they'd still be Chinese children. But out of my thumbs, my little red baby runs, and that's another fact, an unchanging fact.
Well done, Door Brothers. There was a lot of veiled jokes in that video for those who get it. For those who are elite level politics, you get all those visual jokes in that one. And if you are, then if you're here, then you're obviously elite. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Austin Peterson here. We're glad and grateful to have you here. Would Elizabeth Warren please shut up? Is the Department of Government Efficiency going to take down Elizabeth Warren?
Basically starts the dumbest trade war in the history of this country. This is going to be about potentially millions of people losing their jobs. It's going to be about millions of people losing their savings.
She's just mad that it's not her doing it. She loves the
People
tariffs.
losing their retirement security, and at the same time taking on even higher costs.
But guess what? Guess who's going to be just fine when that does happen? And it will happen if we continue this bellicosity on trade. Guess what? Guess who's going to be just fine? Elizabeth Warren is going to be just fine. Take the money and run. Is anybody else interested to see how people like Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren have been trading? Don't you think that over the last week, don't you think we need to do a really thorough analysis of stock market trading that's been going on in the last week? There's a lot of suspicious stuff going on in the stock market that has a lot to do with people who have a whole lot more power than I think they really ought. It's probably time for us to ban insider trading for Congress. What do you say? Should Congress be really allowed to be setting legislative policies and having all this insider knowledge? You know, a lot of them know what the White House is going to do, before the rest of the public do, and they tell us about, don't you dare trade on a stock tip, the public. And meanwhile, they're using the power of the state to insider trade on the rest of us, right? For Elizabeth Warren, it's a talking point. For the rest of us, it's our lives.
He's wrecking our economy. I think people have seen their retirement savings on fire, and there he is out on the golf course. That may end up being the most enduring image of the Trump presidency. That is the president out on a golf cart while people's retirement is in flames. It will be the Trump recession. He will completely own it. This is a completely self-destructive economic act that he's engaged in.
Writing to the White House to demand who knew in advance that the president was going to once again flip-flop on tariffs. And
Adam Schiff. But if I was in China, I'd have some Chinese children. If I was in China, I'd have some Chinese children.
I tend to more agree with President Trump than I did with President Obama on Bush on trade. The whole idea for China manipulating their currency, I learned about them when I visited with Macney. I visited Crucible Steel here in Syracuse, and they were telling me back then how their steel products had an unfair advantage because China was manipulating its currency. That's how the whole issue came to the fore, because I happened to visit Crucible Steel back in 2004 or 5, sometime like that. So I hope he's really tough on China, on both North Korea, and on treating us fairly in terms of trade.
Chuck Schumer? What? But if I was in China, I'd try some Chinese children.
Minds across the world are betting on a recession. What are you saying to your business leaders when they're calling you about where this goes next?
Well, this is what I'm telling them. With tariffs, an eye for an eye just leaves both people blind. When a government imposes a tariff, it's putting its thumb on the scale. It interferes with people's freedom to exchange goods and services. Some countries, China, the best example, have used trade barriers as a weapon to hurt the American economy. You said it. God created the world, everything else is made in China. President Trump decided to try to change this, and he, as we know, has imposed dramatically higher American tariffs on these countries. But then, at least for me, an extraordinary thing happened. We have 195 countries in the world. Probably 40% have come forward, and instead of bowing up and fighting, they've said, we want to lower our tariffs. Will you lower yours? I frankly never saw that coming. I think it is a wonderful opportunity. Now, I don't want to feign understanding. I do not know what the president is going to do next. There's an internal debate and going on inside and outside the White House. I can just tell you what I would do, Joe. I would pounce on this opportunity like a ninja. And I would use this as an opportunity to reduce, or in some cases, Taiwan, Vietnam, European Union, go to zero reciprocal tariffs. And then we can have free trade, let the best product at the best price win. But I don't want to mislead you. I don't know what the president's going to do next. I know what I hope he does.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, Senator.
I can always count on him for a great take. Here's Democrats complaining about tax cuts.
The Speaker is rushing to the floor to pass a budget reconciliation to screw America by passing the biggest tax cut in history on the backs of the American people. WTF? Who's in charge?
The Democrats couldn't be any less masculine.
It's like another scene out of, the Lord of the Flies. You have all these pundits and politicians chasing him around the island. And you have people go into absolute vapors every time he talks about censorship or talks about Donald Trump. Really, this turned on Musk when he bought Twitter and took down the censorship system. But most importantly, when he released the Twitter files, because many of us were testifying in Congress and Democratic members would say, you've no proof that there's any coordination between the government and these companies. And then Elon Musk supplied the proof with thousands of emails coming from government officials and offices, over 80 FBI agents targeting individuals and groups for censorship. They never forgave him for that. And you have this bizarre situation where, you have CEOs that openly support Harris, openly support extremely far left policies. There's not a peep about them. But there is this Musk mania, which has just overwhelmed the media recently. They've already done everything they could short of throwing him into a wood chipper. I mean, they've targeted his revenue, they've targeted his companies, they've targeted his advertisers. In my book, The Indispensable Right, I talk about Musk. And love him or hate him, he is without question the most consequential figure in free speech of our generation. I think that he has done more for free speech than any living person today. In some ways, he actually stopped the progress of the anti-free speech movement by releasing the Twitter files. But he's really that immovable object that this irresistible force encountered, and they won't forgive him for it. All their CEOs caved. People like Zuckerberg and others, they caved like a house of cards. But they finally found someone that couldn't be coerced, couldn't be threatened, couldn't be scared. And they will not forgive him for that.
Let's give it up for Elon freaking Musk. Way to go, dude. Way to go. I'm really, really thrilled to live in the United States in 2025. Flaws and all, my country, the United States of America, where an African-American immigrant can make America great again. He's my favorite African-American. Second favorite, come on, L-Dubs, you know it's you and me, boy. He's my favorite African-American. Guys, I love you. You're amazing. Thank you for supporting the Wake Up America show. It's great to be a part of a movement. It's great to be part of a people who are, it's the cult of individuals who all think for themselves and fight with each other a lot and hate each other and scream at each other all the time. Individualism. The cult of individualism. I will forever be ineligible to join any cults, but I guess that doesn't mean that I can't start one. What do you say, guys? Here, have a drink. AP for Liberty. The cult is gathering together. We're lighting candles in the great place of all evil, Washington, D.C. The AP D.C. Liberty Tour. It's on. Power to the people. Still a few tickets left. If you decided you want to join me and the crew, the rest of the cult, May 1st to the 3rd, we're going to be in Washington, D.C. We're going to hit George Washington's house. We're going to go to the U.S. Capitol, do a tour, meet my Congressman, Dr. Bob Onder, is a wonderful man. We're going to Thomas Jefferson's memorial, and he's actually going to be there to join us. Well, the artificially intelligent Thomas Jefferson. It's going to be a lot of fun. Drew Van Ronkel, L-Dub78, Luke Sacker, T-Mill 22. She's our local. As well as Drew, Entropy Nomad. He's been a big supporter of the show. We appreciate you, bud. Joey Maddo found us through the podcast, the audio podcast, and Joni Rankin and so many others in the chat. Can't tell you enough. Joni, I saw your coffee order went through last night. Enjoy your delicious founding flavors. You need to exit through the Grift Shop as well. Yeah, that's you. 4libertyshop.com. The number 4libertyshop.com. Drink delicious founding flavors coffee. Sign up for a monthly subscription for coffee. Then you get the 20% discount at the shop. Which shop? The 4 Liberty Shop. That's the number 4 libertyshop.com. Visit it, support, like, see you tonight. Culturama, 7 p.m. Daniela, then the boys, Liberty Tonight, right after. I'll see you guys there. Have a great day and stay free. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
All right, folks, gather round. It's time for another round of What in the Free Market is Going On Down in Argentina. President Javier Milei, yes, the chainsaw-swinging, government-slashing libertarian economist who somehow got elected in a country that spent decades neck-deep in socialism, just landed a $20 billion deal with the International Monetary Fund. That's right, $20 billion. And before you ask, no, it's not for another flashy World Cup bid or a giant steak-shaped monument in Buenos Aires. It's to keep the lights on while Milei continues trying to blowtorch the bloated Argentine state into something leaner, freer, and possibly functional for the first time in, well, anyone's lifetime. Now on the surface, this deal looks like a win. Argentina's been walking a fiscal tightrope for years. Actually, it's less a tightrope and more like a frayed shoestring hanging over a pit of inflation and despair. Milei's reforms have already slashed public spending, frozen infrastructure boondoggles, and put a hard stop to the endless subsidies that turn the government into an economic babysitter. But here's the rub. Radical reform takes time, and time, unfortunately, doesn't pay the bills. Enter the IMF, stage left, holding a checkbook and a clipboard. This deal gives him the breathing room to keep pushing reforms, while stabilizing markets and calming investors. That's the upside. The risk? The IMF doesn't exactly hand out cash with a wink and a handshake. There are strings, big ones. Strings that look suspiciously like long-term repayment plans, reform guidelines, and pressure that could curb the very boldness that got Milei elected in the first place. And let's not kid ourselves. The IMF has a history. Argentina knows it well. In fact, this isn't their first dance. It's their 22nd program with the IMF since the 1950s. That's not a partnership. That's a dysfunctional relationship with weekend custody of monetary policy. The last big deal was just a few years ago, a $44 billion loan during the COVID era that fizzled out in spectacular fashion. Inflation skyrocketed, reforms stalled, and the public grew even more disillusioned. So when people hear Argentina and IMF in the same sentence, their first reaction isn't hope, it's déjà vu. So here's where we have to ask the hard question. Is this $20 billion lifeline a strategic move to buy time for real economic freedom? Or is it just a high-interest delay button that'll pull the rug out from under reforms down the line? Supporters argue this is exactly the kind of bold move needed to escape the endless cycle of inflation and debt. The money gives the country the cushion to weather the short-term pain of removing price controls, cutting off unsustainable subsidies, and opening up markets to competition. And let's be honest, nobody else was going to float Argentina $20 billion and say, yeah, take your time, get your house in order. But critics, some even within his team, worry this could dilute the radical vision, because once you're on the IMF's tab, you're no longer the one calling all the shots. Bureaucrats in Washington start whispering about moderation, social protections, and measured transitions. Next thing you know, your economic revolution gets downgraded to policy adjustments, and suddenly you're back to debating subsidies for public tango lessons. Okay, maybe not tango, but you get the idea. Still, there's a path forward here. If Milei can stick to his guns, cut spending, shrink government, deregulate, and actually use the IMF's money to grease the gears of transition rather than fuel more state expansion, this could be remembered as the turning point, the moment Argentina stopped playing economic roulette and actually placed a long-term bet on liberty, markets, and reality. It's a risky bet, no doubt, but here's the kicker. So is doing nothing. So is printing more pesos. So is pretending that state-run programs funded by debt and fantasy are somehow for the people. And look, Argentina isn't alone. Every country that piles on debt, expands entitlements, and kicks tough decisions down the road should be watching this closely. Milei is doing what politicians in most developed countries won't even whisper in private. He's cutting, he's consolidating, he's confronting the beast head on. He's putting political capital on the line to fix what's broken, not just patch it with duct tape and applause lines. The world needs more of that. And there's a certain electricity in the air, like the feeling that, against all odds, something real might actually take root. You can see it already. Inflation is easing, markets are stabilizing, investment interest is creeping back in. But more importantly, there's movement, momentum, hope. Not the empty kind sold during campaign seasons. The kind built on trade, growth, and personal responsibility. Argentina's been here before, but never quite like this. The chainsaw is buzzing, the checkbook is open, and this time, the story might just end differently.